Evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Yes, it's me, DD, otherwise known as Daddy Dragon, Graham Moore, or the person who represents you in the High Court, and won against two King's Counsels, two barristers, four respondents, and an army of solicitors, right? And I just want to make sure I say this to everyone before I start. This is the last time I mention them. I did not say I'm a living man anywhere in any of my representations to the High Court or in the paperwork, right? Get away from people like Sovereign Pete, right? And especially the farmers. I've been on Telegram. I've tried to tell them, right? If you want to talk to someone who really understands the law, come and see us. The English Constitution Party protect our farmers, protect pensioners, protect people with disabilities, right? That's what we're about, and that's what we're going to do. So, you wonderful people, I'm just going to let you know what's going on in the background at the moment, right? So, the judgment was handed down last Friday as a draft. I was sent an email and it said, in no uncertain terms, and anyone who was in the court heard what was said, if you repeat this information, whether it's good or bad, or the judgment or the conclusion of the judgment, then you will be held in contempt and potentially sent to prison, right? So I absolutely understood that. And just to make sure you're all aware, whatever happens, if there is some form of judgment in relation to something and it's embargoed, you can't talk about it. So I went from being absolutely elated on Friday, which I was, trust me, to going into full shutdown mode. In other words, I couldn't speak about it at all, not even to my dad, who's 95, who kept saying to me, "What's happening with that case, boy?" And I'm like, I can't even speak. So I couldn't, because I know he'd asked me, and I couldn't speak about it. The end result is that I come off of two groups, the moderator group and the other group, which is in effect the executive committee, which one thing that was very unfair was the solicitors, the barristers, the legal profession, so-called legal professionals, were in full attack mode, and I could not speak to anyone, no one, right? So while they had big teams of people, all being funded by you, by the way, to attack me, I couldn't speak to anyone about it. And I think I did make representations to the High Court and to both judges politely, and said that I consider it to be legal bullying, what they're doing in the background. We won, right? So anyone who went to that, and let me just make sure I say this, I didn't win. We won. There is no I in team, right? We won. And what we have won is two High Court judges now travel from London. The petition goes ahead. That was the conclusion. It has set a precedent. I think it was 32 pages of judgment, 82 paragraphs of legal rulings and argument. We've set a precedent in two ways. So again, we have set that precedent, and these types of cases, people will understand that a single elector can bring an election petition, and we're open. There's something else we're going to do, which I'm going to discuss briefly. I'm not going to go into detail about it. But the key point of this is we won. So if anyone hasn't seen the full video at 11 a.m. this morning with an exclusive with Andy the Gabby, he was one of the people that were supporting the case, right? And when I say supporting, I mean he was actually talking about the case. There was only a handful of alternative media that was doing it. The rest of them are just as corrupt as the mainstream media, and that includes JB News. That includes Talk TV. That includes all these other people, right? No one wanted to talk to me because they considered to me a working class. What does he know? He hasn't been to university, no, and I wouldn't want to be, right? What I've learned about the law and reading law over 30 years is what was presented, and the argument come down to service. So just to make sure you're all aware, and I have got something here that I want to hopefully show you, and I don't even think I've got it in front of me. Without going into too much detail, I won't show the front. I received a letter, right, in the post, right? That letter was sent to Sarah Pouchin and all of the people involved with the case. It is someone who quite obviously works for the Royal Mail as a whistleblower and has sent details to say that two senior people at Runcorn and Helsby's delivery depots, right, and a senior manager above him, one have been suspended by the Royal Mail, and two, one of them is, I believe, being investigated because they hid our leaflets and they have been found in the distribution office underneath the frames. That letter names both of those people. That information was also sent to the whole of the group of the solicitors and barristers, right, to say that you know this. Now, the important part of this is that means Sarah Pouchin was aware, and yet she still tried to strike out our application for a full trial on her election, right? So in other words, she knew that there was corruption, and she's just as bad as the rest in terms of, I don't care how I got there, right? It's a bit like saying you live in £1 million at the house and this is my house, but you stole the money to get it, right? Then really and truthfully, it's not your house. It belongs to the people that paid for it, right? And it's not you because you stole the money. Well, again, it shows for me that Sarah, so originally, I believed that Sarah Pouchin would back off of it. She's had what I would describe as very bad legal advice, to try and strike out her petition. So again, on Friday, I was told the result. I didn't speak to anyone. I shut up. I got personally, literally, absolutely, and the emails, that there is somewhere in the region of 30 emails where these legal teams representing the respondents, right, have come in for a full attack. They are spitting feathers that a normal everyday working person can beat two King's Counsels, two barristers representing 4 respondents and an army of solicitors and win, right? That is what we did, right? Not just me. I'll tell you what's important about this case is the amount of general public interest and packing out that gallery, right? So what happens now is by the way, they're trying to do something in the background they're not allowed to do, right? Which is appeal, because now they're asking for special leave to appeal to a higher court. In this case, it would actually be the Supreme Court, which means I could be representing you in the Supreme Court. They're trying to get this. They do not want me representing you in this trial because I'm not part of their club, right? And I know the law, not like these other lemons. I actually know the law and can present the law to 2 High Court judges. Now, I have a strong suspicion that they're going to swap out 2 impartial and honest judges, which we just had in this case, for 2 crooked judges, right? In other words, Fabians or associated with the Labour Party or whatever. Now, that shouldn't happen. The 2 that listen to this case should be the 2 judges that hear this trial, right? The trial means that 2 High Court judges under English common law, it is in effect the Court of Common Plea, pick themselves up, go along, and they create or convene a court in Runcorn and Helsby, where the people who were, and by the way, I'm not going to go into too much detail because there is a trial. People will see exactly what went on. Now, just to make sure everyone's clear on this, in 2016, I stood in an election in Tooting in South London. That particular constituency, right, was a mile away from where I was born. And I know that we had many votes. We campaigned, we went and spoke to people, etc. That was the constituency where Sadiq Khan resigned as a member of parliament and become the mayor of London. In his place was a particular person who was a doctor in the National Health Service who got projected into this position. But I got 50 votes, exactly 50 votes. Now, in by-elections and general elections, they clip the votes at 50. So they put a paper clip at 50, right? And that's called a bundle. In municipal elections, in other words, council elections, that they clip them at 25, right? But in a general election or a by-election, they clip them at 50. Now, in that election in 2016, I got exactly 50 votes, right? Exactly 50 votes. And then I stood in a number of other elections where I've got numerous votes. But in particular, I stood in Chorley in 2019, a Christian area, right? Which is in Lancashire. And I got 1,007 votes. Just thinking about the figures, 1,007 votes. To get the exact same vote anywhere would be almost impossible. And then I stood in Runcorn and Helsby, right? And bearing in mind, Britain First didn't stand, Homeland Party never stood, all these other people never stood, right? And I stood and we campaigned. There's videos of us campaigning, the information's out there. There was a number of very large social media accounts that was promoting us, right? Sean Atwood, for example, Mark Atwood, Andy the Gabby Cabby, LSB Studios, and many others. Banana Man. There were many others that was talking about us, right? And we was out there and we was campaigning for the people, right? We campaign for self-determination. We campaign for people with disabilities and pensioners, etc., right? We're not the bad guys. Them people have been shafted left, right, and centre, right? And the return was exactly 50 votes. So they bundle with a clip of 50 votes, and that was it. What they didn't realise when they returned that return was the impossibility of getting exactly 50 votes in an election in Tooting in 2016, a decade before, and an election in a different constituency in the north of England, a different demographic, and getting exactly 50 votes. In fact, I calculated it to be 40,000 elections to one, right? Elections, 40,000. You would have to stand in 40,000 by-elections to get it. And then someone come along and said, no, you're wrong, Graham. And then told me that they was a member of the Royal Statistical Society. They went through all their details. By the way, he worked in the city. He worked for the Financial Times as an analyst. He said, you're wrong. I said, well, okay, why am I wrong? He said, because it's 1,000,000 to one. 1,000,000 elections to one. It is so impossible. It is beyond belief, right? Of you getting 50 in each one, right? Now, the point being, we were vilified and laughed at by the mainstream media. Yet we put our own money in from you. You were the people that funded this election. You were the people that fund our membership. You were the people that funded the leaflets, which were then illegally not distributed. You were the people funding the police who harassed us on our campaign just because we've got English in our name, right? Bearing in mind that whole section is unlawful, right, of what they're doing. And the returning officer returned 50 votes. There's only 6 votes in it. I personally witnessed 116 votes, 2 bundles of 50, right? And what I roughly worked out to 16 votes, right? There was only 6 votes in it. So where did the 66 votes go to? Where did they go? Because they were stolen from us. They're stealing your property. Your vote is your property. And just to make sure, I'm emphasising, in the judgment today, it stated yet again, you can only bring an election petition if you have voted in the election. A single elector, not just a candidate, anyone that votes in that election can bring an election petition if they believe they have evidence of skullduggery, right? Or any form of election interference, right? So I just want you to understand how serious it is. But again, I'm telling everyone that understands this, we won, right? And what we've now got is an election petition trial. So again, the 2 judges go along, they convene a court, the returning officer and the other respondents are doing everything in their power, right, to try and make this trial happen later in the year, December or next year, etc. And the trial judges have already said no, right? They already put them on notice that the trial will happen on the 2nd of October. They are trying to appeal it. They're trying to do everything because they don't want me. And this is why it's so important. You remember when I say to you, I need 10 names to come and act as count agents. Because when you sit there and say, well, I've seen 100 votes, I've seen 150 votes, I've seen 250 votes for us, and then they say there's only 50 votes. It's not just about who they return as the candidate for the Member of Parliament. It's the fact that they brought in and said, we don't get our deposit back unless we get X percentage of the return, right? Of the people that actually went out and voted. What does that mean? It means they thought they could steal our votes, put them into their candidate's pile, right? And that's what they've been doing. And they've been doing it all over the country, right? They thought they could steal our votes and get away with it until they met me and you, right? And we said, we're not having that. You have defrauded us because we don't know how much it is. Now, in Chorley, we got 1,007 votes. All we needed was 1,500 votes in this election. We would have got our deposit back, right? So we would have got the 500 quid back. If they've stolen any of our votes, that election is null and void, technically, right? And even if it returns Sarah Pouchin, it is still null and void because it wasn't a free election and a pure election. I just want to make sure everyone's aware of this. So a 32-page judgment, the conclusion to which is the petition will go ahead, right? They have got the raving ump. They are spitting feathers like you've never seen, right? And I've had to take all of that on the chin in the background and not talk to anyone about what they're trying to do and what they're doing, which I believe is completely unfair, right? Because in reality, the people I should be able to speak to is the English Constitution Society and the English Constitution Party. And I've not been allowed to do that. So we have seen what I would consider extreme legal bullying in the background, right? I'm not suggesting I wasn't under pressure from that. I was, right? And all we want to do is win for the people, right? I want to explain to people tonight why it's so important. Everyone keeps talking about freedom of speech. Everyone keeps talking about freedom of expression. All of these freedoms, which are common law and constitutional rights of the English, right? But there's one that no one is talking about, and they should be talking about it, because it is the absolute bedrock of all them other freedoms, and that is freedom of election and the freedom to hold elections without interference. So I'm going to explain to you why this is so important. I'm going to tell you what these people have done. By defrauding us over decades, at a minimum of which from 1948, but before that, they have cheated in elections. They have put in a red wall of cheats, basically. Communists have, by the way. It's very rare you see real conservatives, right? A conservative and Union Party is not a real conservative. I have seen what they've done. And in effect, if you then manipulate through being crooked and bent elections who you put in place as an MP, so a bunch of crooks who were cheating an election put a crooked MP in place, right? From that position, they're in Parliament. The more they get in Parliament, you're talking about 141 Fabians as we speak, right? That means communists, Marxists, right? And what they then do is they create laws. Some people have called the Constitutional Reform Act of 2005 constitutional vandalism. That's not what it is. It is constitutional subversion, and the other name for that is treason. That is how big this case is, right? And what they've done is by creating crooked MPs and putting them in position, they then corrupt Parliament to go against our constitutional rights and common law rights. What they then do and did with the Constitutional Reform Act of 2005, what did they do? They created a position where the Lord Chancellor no longer picks the best judges through merit, having years and years and years of experience being completely independent, right? Instead, the judges are chosen by politicians. The political appointment of judges goes completely against our constitution. And then once they've done that, they corrupt the judiciary. They then corrupt the barristers, the solicitors, and everyone involved with the legal profession, including the law courts. That's how you destroy a country. They then push forward. The politicians have been pushing forward with the regionalisation of England to destroy England as a political objective that the judiciary agrees with. That is what we are standing up against, right? Once people understand how bad this is, and I'm sure you all understand, just to make sure I've conveyed this correctly, do you all understand what I've just said to you? If you put if you got crooked people that then they could be lobbyists, they could be anything, but they criminalise the process of putting a member of parliament in place, then that member of parliament has got there through crooked means. It means they are crooks, right? They then, many of them, create a law that subverts our constitution. And in this case, and there are many of them, there's about 20 of these laws that we've highlighted. They then put these people in place. They then create a law that destroys our constitution. And that particular law, the Constitutional Reform Act of 2005, removed the Lord Chancellor as the person who gives the judge the tap to say you're the best of the best, merit only, you've got to where you are, right? And what they do is when they're in that position, it doesn't matter what happens, the judges turn around and say Parliament is sovereign because they've been picked. They're getting their pension. They're getting their 250 grand a year salary, right? And the people suffering are you. And what we're doing, I'm not in their club, right? I'm not one of them. But I do read law. I present law. I present facts to the judges. I'm not saying that all judges are bent, right? But they are just as much in fear as many other people. If you go back and speak to any of the retired judges, they will tell you, I've never seen it as bad as this. And the reason is because they've allowed corruption at a basic level. Now, they did knock out the Emma Gilmore from the Royal Mail, and they did knock out the Chief Constable. Right? There's another way of me dealing with that. I could appeal it. But the issue on a point of law, the issue that we've got is we got the trial, right? But this is fundamental law. By knocking out Emma Gilmore from the head of the Royal Mail and knocking out the Chief Constable, they have given immunity to anyone who is not named by statute as being someone you can bring a petition against. If you read the old law, and the common law controls the statute, it states that in terms of election law in my law books, which I presented to the High Court. That is a major issue, because what they're doing is giving immunity to anyone else. So now the Royal Mail has immunity to corrupt elections, and no one's going to get prosecuted. The police can harass political campaigns. Right, this is it's almost like an enabling act, which the Nazis provided during the lead up to the Second World War in Nazi Germany. Right, they're giving immunity to anyone else to be corrupt in an election. That's not good. Right, there is a way that I can bring that as a separate case. Right, and it will be done, believe it or not, under the Human Rights Act of 1998 and the European Convention of Human Rights. I don't believe that's a good way of doing it, but I have to do my best for you, right, and for us. And I believe that is such an unlawful and unreasonable part of the judgment that it cannot be left, right, because of the immunity factor that they're giving these two people. That set aside, the two people that we are going against is the returning officer and his staff, and Sarah Pouchin, MP. And again, from this letter, we know that the Royal Mail have suspended two senior employees, one for covering up the fact that the election material was not delivered, and the other person is actually the manager of the distribution office in Runcorn and Helsby, and evidently, without full and proper disclosure, the leaflets were found hidden in the depot. All right, so there are people out there that know exactly what's gone on, and I am absolutely sure that the Royal Mail knew that and never disclosed it to the court. And it is a material fact and an omission that they left out to the court. And I think that's very, very serious, right? Because that, in effect, is perverting the course of justice. So just to make sure everyone's clear, do you all understand what I just said? Right? So we've now got a letter from someone that says, your leaflets have been found under the frames inside the distribution office. They knew that they never delivered them. And two people at very senior level have been suspended from their jobs, right? But none of that information was forwarded to the High Court or even given to me, all right? It's been given to me by someone that is a whistleblower in the Royal Mail. So they know. So this is all crooked. Don't forget, you paid for them leaflets. You paid for them leaflets. You paid for the campaigning. You paid for my petrol money, my stay up there. You paid for the meals that we had when the campaigners was having a meal in different locations. You helped pay for all that, right? And we went out there as a massive group of people and showed that we were English constitutionalists and showing what's going on. Right? So does everyone understand that? I'm not sure if I can actually show you on the screen, it might not come up properly. But this is, let me just make sure this is the right one. I don't know whether this will work or not. I can try and bring it up on your screen. Let me have a quick look and see if I can get it up there. Right, let me see if I can share this screen. It's not doing it. Let's say if I say window, hopefully I'll be able to show this on the screen, right? So this is it in the High Court. I'm hoping you're seeing it on the screen. You're going to have to tell me that you can see it. Neutral citation number 2025 EWHC 320 KB, case number P38125 in the High Court of Justice, King's Bench Division, Divisional Court. Before Mrs. Justice Yip and Mr. Justice Butcher in the matter of representation of the People's Act 1983 and in the matter of Parliament election for Runcorn and Helsby constituency held on the 1st of May, right? Between Graham Harry Moore, petitioner, Royal Mail Group Limited, Mark Roberts, Chief Constable of Cheshire Constabulary, Sarah Joanne Pochin, MP, and Stephen Young, returning officer, right? And then it goes in and it tells you who these people are. The petitioner appeared in person. Tim Gilly, instructed by Adelshaw Goddard, massive amount of money they're trying to hit me with. Olivia Checker Dover, instructed by TLT and LLP for the second respondent. Adam Richardson, instructed by the Direct Public Access Scheme for third respondent. And Timothy Straker, KC, instructed, King's Counsel, that is, instructed by Sharp Pritchard for the fourth respondent, right? The hearing date was the 25th of July. This judgment handed down remotely at 10:38 a.m. And then it goes into the detail, right? So I'm not going to go into the massive detail. All I'm going to do is take you all the way down. Like I say, it's quite a lengthy judgment, right? And we've set two precedents. So this case will be about for a very long time, right? So all I'm going to do is go to, in summary, we regard the following matters of particular significance: that Mr. Moore acted promptly both in presenting the petition and in taking the steps he did to bring the petition to Mrs. Pochin's attention. 2, the manner in which the petition was brought to Mrs. Pochin's attention was such as to create a clear point at which Miss Pochin could be said to have served. 3, the contents of the petition were brought to her actual attention during the 5-day period. And 4, we can see no relevant prejudice which the third and fourth respondents will suffer by reason of the respective validation of the service which occurred. Those matters appear to us to constitute a good reason why there should be a validation order under CPR R6152 to the extent that the context of Rule 6 and 19 of the rules required that the good reason has additional degree of cogency and force. As is suggested in Ireland versus Doris, we consider that it has, right? So conclusion, for these reasons, we refuse the third and fourth respondents' applications to dismiss the petition. The trial of the petition should go ahead. That's it, right? So there's a lot of small legal argument in it. I won't go to any other further detail, although I do want to print it out and get a proper thing of it. How can I stop sharing? There you go. Did you all see that, by the way, on your screen? DD, the screen you're sharing is blank. All right. So there's some strange things going on with this. So I did try it and show it to everyone. Give Graham a follow on X. Yeah, try and give me a follow on X. So the major point is, right, this is the major announcement to everyone out there. At no time ever, and I want everyone to share this, right, did I say I'm a living man or any of that nonsense. What I done was presented the law, and we won in front of 2 High Court judges against a KC, 2 KCs in effect, 2 barristers and an army of solicitors for the respondents. And you, right, this audience, going up there, you don't realise how important it is for them judges to see that. And again, when the trial occurs, we need hundreds of us. So literally, we're queuing up outside, and the judges can say, "Hang on a minute, we can see that it doesn't matter what the media says, right, or not says. This is all this is all exactly what's going on, right? So before I do anything else, Yorkshire Militia's in there, Sue Ellen, Paul Sefton's in there, Grasshopper. Hello, Grasshopper. How you doing, darling? I hear you might be sharing my cabin. Is that right? Right. Anyway, on a phone. Let me have a quick look. Let me see if I can find what I've got to find for you. I want to get onto this, so I can't see to my screen at the moment. Let me see where I am. I might have to go and find it somewhere else. How can I get that? Muted. Who's muted? BP Willie, Tracy Palmer, muted. So we're being attacked by a few trolls. I'm not surprised. Or the judgment roll. Graham cannot see the documents. Oh, that's a pain in the arse. I don't know why that is. But I just want to make sure that people understand what's going on. I'm going to go for it. So just to let you know that Runcorn and witnessworld.co.uk, I'm going to go through these others, which I sent out earlier. Let me see if I can go and find them for you. I just want to make sure that you're aware that so again, as far as I know, the mainstream media, meaning that the BBC, ITV, all these people that are supposed to be for the people, are not really. None of these news stations are talking about it. They're giving us some elements of what's going on. I'm just going to bring some of these up for your attention. Again, let me put this one out there. Not sure which one that one is. Let me see if I can. And this one's a really great one. So again, a public portal notice is out there. Let me just show you, if I can, what they're doing. Now I've got to go and find my little dot again. Where's my little dot? I think that's in there. Can you all see me, by the way? Has the screen gone blank? See if I can. It don't like me sharing. Let me hit this button. Right, for some reason this has gone pear-shaped on me. Right, I've got to go and do this. I'm now muted. Can you all hear me now? Apologies. Smash this out there. Let's go as big as we can with this video because enough people need to see it. What I'm going to do, this is probably going to take me out of the game again, but I do need to make sure everyone understands it. So I'm going to bring this one on. Again, BBC News, reform by-election win, legal challenge to go ahead. And again, it goes into some of the details. And there you have a former magistrate, absolutely for the state, sending people down. And again, we're standing up against these people that tell lies. A legal challenge to the result of a by-election that saw a former UK MP elected by 6 votes can go ahead, the High Court has ruled. Graham Moore, who stood for the English Constitution Party in the Runcorn and Helsby by-election on 1st of May, finished last of 15 candidates with 50 votes. 2 High Court judges have ruled that a trial of petition over the election of Sarah Putin should go ahead, although the details of Moore's case have not been revealed. Yes, they have. And I can tell you now they've been revealed. Legal challenge. Let me share this tab instead. Legal challenge over Runcorn's by-election results to go ahead. Ballot box there. A legal challenge against the result of Runcorn and Helsby by-election earlier this year can go ahead. The High Court has ruled. Graham Moore stood for the election, the English Constitution Party's election on May the 1st, finished in last place of 15 candidates with 50 votes. By the by-election was won by Reform candidate Sarah Putin, who won by 6 votes following a recount. No, it wasn't a full recount. It was a bundle recount. The fraud had already happened by then. Mr. Moore lodged a parliamentary election petition at the High Court on May the 15th, requesting that the election be declared void and that an independent recount be concluded. At the hearing in July, barristers for the Royal Mail, Cheshire Police, returning officer Stephen Young and Miss Pouchin all asked for 2 judges to dismiss the petition. In a ruling on Thursday, Mr. Justice Butcher and Mrs. Justice Yip dismissed the case against the Royal Mail and Cheshire Police. That's the bit that we can argue against. But they ruled, and there's another way of bringing that, ruled that the trial of the petitioner should go ahead, right? So we are literally going to see what's going on. And just to make sure everyone's aware of this, this is ITV News. Losing candidate allowed High Court challenge to Runcorn by-election result won by Reform. And again, a legal challenge against the result of the Runcorn Helsby and by-election by a losing candidate. That's what I mean. All they want to do is destroy us, right? And then it says, when the declaration came early on Friday, May the 2nd, Reform leader Nigel Farage called it a big moment for politics. Yeah, it's called cheating. But less than 2 weeks later, Graham Moore, who stood for the English Constitution Party and finished last of 15 candidates with 50 votes, lodged a parliamentary election petition at the High Court. Right? So remember, they stole our votes. And these 2 people on the screen, in effect, knew that there was election shenanigans. Right? Again, I'm just going to show you this one. Reform by-election win. Legal challenge to go ahead, right? So a legal challenge, this is main news on the BBC's website. If anyone's heard anything, you'll doubt it, because these people are not interested in us. So again, there's another one there, Runcorn and Witness World, legal challenge, and it goes all the way like that. So I just want to stop sharing. Did you all see that on your screens? Just to make sure. Did you all see that on your screens, or had I gone completely pear-shaped? Why would a businessman buy a company and not have total control over the government? Say that it can and it can't happen. I don't know what that means. No sound, DD. Are you still getting sound from me or not? Can you see and hear me? Some people might be on slight delay. Everyone can see and hear me. So again, what I need is for the people, you, to send this information out, get it out there, share it, go through, and when you research all them things, email Sarah, not email, but Twitter, use Twitter. Say, what's all this about this election that you knew was corrupt and you still trying to get it struck out, right? You're no different to the rest of them. Be polite though, people, but basically tell them, because we're the good guys. That's the important part of this. Kew Gardens, 5B5, Rob Young. I mean, ask. Sarah Patchin's out there. So is the Mohammedan that's associated with Reform. Literally ask them. So what's going on then? Why do you consider yourself any different to anywhere else? Right? There's been an unlawful election, and you've just continued. Right? You've tried to strike out a petition from someone who people that voted for him had their votes stolen, and you're okay with that. You're trying to get the petition struck out. That isn't reforming anything. That's saying we want more of the same. Right? That's not what we're about. Right? So Reform UK literally wanted to carry on. Ofcom need to be taken down. Smet, yes. Let me have a quick look. Right, so you all happy with your news that we won, which means that we go ahead now with, and this is the beauty of this, right? Instead of having a barrister or a solicitor who's not going to, this is all on record, by the way, that's not going to say X, Y, Z because he's sucking in at the teat of the British establishment. You've got someone who genuinely stands for the people, knows the law, and will present the law in a petition to say that this is unlawful and that we must have a full individual ballot recount. There were 6 votes in it. We know that we got well in excess of 100 votes, right? I don't know how many it is. It could be 600. It could be 1,500. It could be 2,000 votes. It was a punishment election, right? What I do know is someone cheated, and it was in that returning office count, right? And there is a point at which you can't see the switch. And again, I'm not the only person to say it. I've seen this at other elections. I've been a count agent at many elections, right? But this is the first time it's happened to me, and there's been evidence of it, and blatantly clipping you up at 50 and saying you didn't get any more votes than that. Really? You should, DD. Let's have a look. Spot on. Take a huge amount of credit from me, DD. Who's this? Yeah, well done to everyone. Suggesting that Farage is a Judas goat. No, I agree. The Reform, Advance UK, and to some extent even Restore Britain, then that none of them are speaking about this. None of them are speaking about the constitutional subversion to the extent that it needs to be talking about, including our primary right, an undoubted right, is freedom of election. That is that's the platform on which all the other rights, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, etc. That's the platform they all rest on. If you corrupt the elections, you put corrupt people in Parliament. Corrupt people in Parliament create corrupt laws. The corrupt laws subvert the Constitution. The subversion of the Constitution then causes them to remove the Lord Chancellor, and then the corrupt politicians appoint corrupt judges. That's how bad this is, right? And the Labour Party in particular are now governing the country because they cheated in a general election. Not just, this is why it's so important that people should understand this. It ain't just about Helsby and Runcorn and Helsby. That's why you have got crooked people destroying our country as we speak. And Reform are no different. Advance UK are no different. And Restore are no different. Because none of them are talking about what we're talking about now. They are all corrupt, right? It's not as if they don't know. Everyone out there, right? Email Ben Habib. You not email him, sorry. Tweet him and say, why haven't you commented on this case? See what he says. I'll tell you why. Because he's a British Pakistani. He does not want the English to survive. He wants us regionalised and destroyed as a country. No longer a common law jurisdiction. That's what they all want. England at 1. So just to make sure you are all aware. So don't forget, sharing is caring, right? Share this video. I've tried to be as polite as possible and not swear. I don't think I've sworn too much tonight, right? I'm just a normal, everyday working geezer, just like you, right? There's nothing different about me. And except I love the law. I love the rule of law. I love our constitution. But most of all, I love you as English people, and the Scots and the Welsh and the Irish, right? We can go back to being a common law union. The easiest thing for us to resolve most of the issues we've got today is to annul, abolish, void the British Nationalities Act, 1948 and 1981. It'll take all the foreigners out of every position of power in this country overnight, right? because it's unconstitutional and unlawful for them to be there. Just making sure you understand that. So people like Sadiq Khan or anywhere where these Mohammedans are in councils all over the country, they're out, right? They cannot have authority over us. So to finish, I just want to make sure, I'm not 100% sure I can go and find it, but I did actually send a tweet out earlier. Let me see where I put it. And then anyone promote the show. There you go. Don't forget, we need as much possible. The pub's shut now, by the way. And then I'll tell you some funny bits. Public portal. Let me have a go and have a look. I found it somewhere. There it is. Right. I said we needed this retweeted. Right. So I'm going to bring that up. I don't know whether this is going to work, but I do want everyone to understand what this is all about, right? So I'm going to go back to the beginning, go back to my normal run, see if I can share this. Right. Now, I want you to listen carefully. Really, really listen to this, right? Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Someone who did really stitch. I mean, I got a lot of messages last night and said, be careful, DD, right? Because I'm just like him. All I'm doing is telling people the truth, right? This is why he was shot. Remember what the English Constitution does. It protects the Protestant religion and the true Christians. And I've sent it to Job West, right? Someone I've got a lot of respect for because he actually told the truth from the people. So what I'm going to do.
I was articulated yesterday by a couple of my friends that our country was not founded on Christian principles. So I want to see how, like, an argument that you guys can give me to combat that. So essentially, they articulated to me that our country was founded on common law because the Declaration only refers to God 4 times and the Constitution doesn't refer to God at all. And it only articulates the structure of government. And is common law Christian in nature, or is it not?
I can take it first. So this guy whoever said that doesn't really know what they're talking about. So first of all, remember that we were a collection of states and colonies, and you need to read the state constitutions before anything else. 9 out of 13 of the original states required you to be a Bible-believing Christian to serve in government at the time of the founding. Even in actually, 13 out of 13 required a declaration of faith. 9 out of 13 required you to be a Protestant, except Maryland, which was Catholic, which still required a declaration of faith. In almost every single one of the original state constitutions, Pennsylvania included, they had, I profess Lord and Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior in the original state constitutions. So you remember, we're a collection of states before that. Secondly, 55 out of 56 of the original signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. You asked about common law. So common law is inherited from Blackstone, who was Christian. A common law is an outgrowth of the scriptures. So let's go to 3 principles of common law: presumption of innocence, due process, and jury of your peers. All 3 are biblical principles. So, and all wrapped into the ultimate biblical principle that you shall not favor justice if you are rich or poor, which is in Leviticus 19, right before the most famous part of Leviticus 19, which is that you should love your neighbor as yourself. But before that is that in the administration of justice, you shall not favor the rich or the poor, which is the idea of blind justice. We get that in the West, which is incorporated also in the New Testament ideal. Neither slave nor Greek nor Jew, you're all one in Jesus Christ, which you get the idea of human equality. These are all biblical ideas. They're not Enlightenment ideas, which is they kind of get conflated at the time. But more importantly than that, they say that God was only mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Well, that's a big deal, okay? Laws of nature and nature's God. The last paragraph of the Declaration reads as a prayer. It says, we appeal to the supreme judge of the universe. Who's the judge of the universe? Jesus Christ, as it says in Revelation, that Jesus will judge the earth on his throne. So in the Declaration, they were praying to Christ our Lord as a prayer very specifically. Thirdly, as I said on stage yesterday, Deuteronomy was by far the most quoted book, religious or non-religious, in the time of the founding when they were putting together the Constitution, more than John Locke, more than Montesquieu, more than Blackstone. So the book of Deuteronomy, which talked about laws, customs, traditions, it was Moses' farewell address as he's about to say goodbye, say, hey, good luck in Canaan, guys. Here's how you should set up your form of government. But finally, and most importantly, let's look at actually what the founders said. John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral and religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian and was so Protestant that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population. So that's just a surface level belief. So then they'll go to the First Amendment, which has two parts of the First Amendment which get conflated. First of all, separation of church and state is not in the U.S. Constitution. That is a single letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote in 1807 to the Danbury Baptist Convention in Massachusetts, assuring them that the government would not come after the church, okay, which is the opposite of what they would say. However, that was then resurrected by the Warren Court and the Burger Court in the 60s, where they said, hey, all of a sudden we're now going to make this as if it's the Constitution. It does say in the Constitution two things, which is the Establishment Clause and the Free Expression Clause. The Establishment Clause is that Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise thereof. What they were most worried about was a Presbyterian or a Anglican or a Quaker type religion taking over the federal government. Instead, it was that there is not going to be a state-run religion or a state-run government. Did you know that one of the first acts of Congress was taxpayer-funded Bible printing and distribution? Did you know that there were church services held in the Supreme Court building as late as the Jackson presidency in the 1820s? But going back to this idea of separation of church and state, and again, I could riff on this ad nauseum because it's just so ridiculous, right? Is that it's not biblical because first, it's not biblical. It's not constitutional because you go a layer deeper. People that even say that, do you believe in separation of morality and state? Nobody does. So all laws are a reflection of morality, and all morality comes from somewhere. There is no such thing as neutral morality. And we believe what the founders believed because they put it in the halls of Congress, they put it in the Supreme Court, and they put it all throughout the country, which is that the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments, is the core morality of how a society and a civilization should exist, right? The 10 Commandments of every person. And finally, and this is the kicker, if the founding fathers were not Bible-believing church-trained Christians, why did they put Leviticus on the Liberty Bell? Not John, not Psalms, not Proverbs, not Genesis, Leviticus. Most Americans can't spell Leviticus. Leviticus 25:19, proclaim liberty throughout the land of which you are in. It is one of the most sinister, most unsubstantiated lies that does not come up against any sort of academic scrutiny. This idea that founding fathers were a bunch of Enlightenment common law deists. The reason they hate it is because the reason they must say this is that if we actually go back to our Christian roots and we go back to where we once were, it's America's best hope for revival and for a great future. Do you want to add to that, anything? Sorry.
That covered it. That was pretty impressive. I can't touch that.
Beautifully put.
Well, again, it's a bit of a choker to see that man is now dead. Did you all see that, by the way? Could you all see and hear that? Let me go back to... Give me a shout out in there if you can all see and hear me. And you understand what he just said. And bearing in mind, I've covered it on this show, that the English common law is God's law, and God's law is the common law, and we are a Christian nation. If you go back to the early 1900s, I think it was 1905 was the first hearing of a particular case, which was the state versus the secular society, right? Where they removed Christianity in effect as our state religion. And again, this is the effect of getting dodgy judges in there, right? And people have got to understand how important this is. And unless you stand up, which you are all doing, right, which is fantastic, you will all understand exactly, can we get the justice verdict? I don't know what that means. Grasshopper, let's have a look what she says. Grasshopper, what's that one? Protestants left Europe for the free world because of their persecution from Rome. Yeah, they did. I agree entirely. And you could get another Protestant eventually leaving England and following the steps on the Mayflower because of what these people are doing to us. Like I say, I've felt immense pressure of legal bullying in the last few days. And now I can speak So again, last night that come through, I was very, 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 very distressed that they'd shot him. You can't reason with these people. You've even the trolls out there. You can see what they're like. They shut down the nut houses, and most of them people are now in positions. It seems like the lunatics are running the asylum. What was the last thing I'll say to you there? Last night, there was two things I was going to tell you in the pub. The first, the governor said to me, I went in there tonight anyway. Last night there was a bit of a fight, right? And so I walked through the door and said, I ain't coming in this pub no more. It's a trouble pub. They went, yeah. And then they went, we've got a video. I said, what's that? They said, it's all on high definition CCTV with sound. Me sitting at the bar with my pint, right? The fight's starting. They're fighting all around me, right? And me standing up, literally saying, fucking, I ain't having this, right? Stop, right? Calm down. Get away from each other. You fuck off. You do this. You do. Now stop it, right? And they was both like, because DD got off his fucking bar stool, put his pint down and said, well, I'm fucking having none of this. Right? It was a really good night, by the way. They had all folk singers in there, different folk singers. It was fantastic. And then and they was laughing, right, because they were showing me this video. I said, you have to give me that. Right? And they went, no, we ain't doing that. It's just in case we get any comebacks from anyone, right? There was no, it weren't a full Comanche fisty gloves, right? But it was stopped before it got there, right, by me. But even funnier than that, there was a geezer. So I left the pub about, 20 minutes after, half hour after that went, and the landlady barred one of them. And there was another guy in there, he's having a drink, right, but he's trying to keep up with me. Not a good idea, right? And then they showed me a video. This is the funniest video. I couldn't stop laughing when I watched it, right? They said, what's this, right? And this is after that tear up, and he's sitting on this geezer went, oh, that scared me and all that. I was like, what? Fucking, where'd you been all your life? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, sitting on this stool, he's nicked my stool, so I've gone. But they showed me, they should just watch this, Graham, right? So he's sitting on a thing. He finishes his wine like that. He puts his wine back on the thing, and then he goes, boom! I was on the floor. Right. So the governor and the pub and his son have gone, have gone over and tried to pick him up. But imagine someone really drunk who just goes, donk, fell off his stool. Right. I was laughing. But then the video showed the landlady, as that happened, she don't particularly like the geezer, right? She went, she's just it's just another bit of grief, and she just went, oh, tough. You can see her on the camera. I was laughing, right? And then I come indoors and had my packet of crisps and went to bed. There it is. But anyway, just to tell you, it was funny. Do we see how many massive stories are being brought up at the same time? The media can't keep up with it. Yes, Sir Keck is back. Woohoo. Sir Keck, how you doing, son? Hopefully you've seen that we've had a massive win in the High Court. And I'm just making sure everyone understands that. 412, just starting. Is he? I'll go and have a look. Tell him, go over to 412, right? Say the English have arrived. Daddy Dragon wins in the High Court, right? Just go over there to 412. Someone put 412's. Who's got the link to 412? I heard years ago that the British sent a legal operative to help US concern, but the British got in amendment of religion just so you wouldn't protected cults in the future. Thank you, DD. Right, so God bless everyone. If you get, so someone put the link in the chat if they can to 412, and we'll go over there as a mini army of English, right, and say how you doing, right? Just go over there and say DD won in the High Court. can we get the Runcorn verdict from the High Court? Yeah, you'd have to download it. Let me. We will put it up if I can find. I can't find a way of it printing properly. Congratulations on your win today. You were saying. Let me have a look. Such strength and determine, marvellous regards, blah, blah, Liverpool. Oh, yeah, that's that lovely lady. I won't read that out. But everyone understand what is actually going on, right? So in the background, don't forget, people, we're going to need, when this trial happens, we need as many of our people in there as possible. You've got to be on your best behaviour. Because that's how we win cases. Let me have a look. Live Tonight Show, everyone's sending it out. And we've actually won. So just to make sure everyone gets that, I'm going to go back here a second. Let's have a look. Thanks, Juicy and Lucy. Elu. Has anyone put the link in there yet? Anyone put the link in there? Anyone put the link in there? Oh, yes, it is. There it is. Copy. Let me see if I can go and copy that link. Hang on a minute. Let's get that. Let me put this in there. Let me put that in there. It keeps jumping. It won't allow me to hit it. I'll tell you what, though. Let's see if I can find it again. I'm now going to go over to 412 channel. But everyone go over to the 412 channel. Let's see if I can find him again. Let's see if we can go and find him. Right. I'm off. Let's see if I can go and find him again. I can't find. It's gone. It's gone too quick. Right. That's it. Good night. God bless. Get everyone out there. And we'll. Yeah, Tracy, try and give us the Rumble one rather than red pilled. I don't particularly get on with a red pilled one. I'm a bit like that. Let's have a look at that. Let's have a look. Oh, stop it. It's not letting me get there. It's going too quick. Anyway, that's it. I'm off. Bye-bye. Tiddly poo. Don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution. God bless and rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. I mean, everyone is absolutely upset about that, and I just want to make sure that everyone understands this isn't the game, right? And people like me that stick ourselves up the front, there ain't no money in the game. I ain't getting paid nothing. It is dangerous, right? That's it. Good night. God bless, and I will see you over at 412's channel. Good night.